back to another episode of the Young Black Suburban. Today we have one of those kind of guests where I really don't know much about. Sometimes I have guests on here that are my friends that I can tell you a million things about them before we even get into them. Today I have someone who I guess is new into my life. Not my life, the life of Witherspoon Boxing.
Right.
And I do know a little bit about her. She does a little communications. She's from not around here. We just off camera talked about some crazy, not to me, crazy shit. And she said we're allowed to talk about it. We had Ty Fellenberg on the show. How you doing?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for being here, really.
Of course.
So you gave me the green light.
Yes, you were free to talk about whatever you would like.
Your name.
Yes.
All right, because and it's been something that's been on my mind for since I knew that you were going to come on the show today.
Okay.
And I'm like, Ty Fellenberg. I know what you look like.
Yeah.
There's no way
that I'm a Fellenberg.
that you're a Fellenberg.
Yes.
So let's explain. Do you want to say what your original name is?
So my whole name.
You gave me the green light.
I did. So my whole name. So it's Ty Fellenberg. Everybody knows me as Ty Fellenberg. But my whole name is Tynika Fellenberg. I'm originally from the South Bronx, New York, born and bred, but you don't hear it in my accent, but it's there. But my maiden name is Byers. So Tynika Byers. And Fellenberg comes from, I was married to a German. I lived overseas for 2.5, 3 years. And so I never changed my name after I got divorced. So I kept Fellenberg. But I also kept Fellenberg because I thought it would be interesting to keep it, to watch people's faces when Ty Fellenberg, and when they talk to me on the phone, it's, oh yeah, I sound like my name.
Yeah.
Until I walk through the door.
Yeah.
And then they're shocked. I can't tell you how many times I've had people's jaw hit the ground when they realize that I'm Ty Fellenberg. Right. And just that shock and awe of the face alone is worth me keeping Fellenberg.
Right.
Yeah.
You came prepared with that.
Yeah. It's
like
true.
What we said before the show started. Just on paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
On paper. You yourself, you acknowledge the difference of Tynika Byers.
Yeah, it's different.
Of Ty Fellenberg.
Yeah.
Now, me, I have a ordinary name, Timothy Witherspoon. You know, it's not really something I have to worry about. But what if my name was like Jamar Johnson? And then I saw Ty Fellenberg. You know, essentially, to me, all right, I love you. Changing your identity in a way.
Do you think I changed my identity?
I think that if we use a different name.
But that's legally my name.
It's legally your name, but it to me is kind of like it's not.
It is my name. I married a Fellenberg, right? I married a Fellenberg. And to be honest, there's a whole history behind it. But Byers technically is not my real father's name. Okay. There's a man that kind of adopted me when I was younger, and so to me, I didn't get to choose that last name. That wasn't my last name, even though he adopted me or whatever. But Fellenberg was my choice. That was a decision that I made, and so I kept that because that was my first time that I actually got to choose to be who I am. I got to say that this is who I am. I made this decision as to be a Fellenberg, and I didn't have that decision to be a Byers.
Yeah.
So,
but no one has that. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah, well,
we don't get to choose.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't. When I leave this gym and I close the doors, people don't know that I'm Tim Witherspoon. You know, they know what I look like, which is a big part of our identity. Right. So, and you just said yourself that when people see you show up,
yeah,
that their jaws drop. But some people don't even have the privilege of getting that call to show up.
That's true.
Because their name is Tynika.
But I will say, I do still get called for when I've applied for positions. I used Tynika and I still got it.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not that was for whatever reason, but my resume, despite my name, still speaks for itself. But I want to say this, you do have the ability to decide who you are.
Oh, yeah.
And your identity, and you have the ability, despite what your parents named you, despite any of that, you as an individual in this work can decide.
You can decide who you are. I have.
Yeah.
You have. But other people in this society choose who we are too before even getting to know who we are.
True.
So that's why I was saying earlier, I own this business. I have a nonprofit now where I help the community. I am helping other people achieve their goals. But when I lock this door, people don't know that about me.
Mm-hmm.
I look like someone who they only allowed to be a criminal on TV for so many years. I look like Jamar, Johnson. So for me, I understand where you're coming from. I do. You had a different life where you didn't get to choose your identity, who you wanted to be. There's some people, and I hate to get this deep already.
No, but we need to have these conversations are important.
Yeah. There's some people that despite, they just don't have the privilege to do that.
Why do you think that is?
There's a lot that goes into it. It's economics, where you're brought up, the diversity of your area. Anybody, like it's not something that holds you back.
Right.
It's not something that will limit you. But there are things that get in the way still today because of racial issues.
Oh, absolutely. I experience them every day.
Yeah.
Usually I am the only Black person in the room, only African American in the room.
And not just that, woman as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, it's, how do I say, sometimes it's uncomfortable. I think in the beginning of my career, it was a little uncomfortable because it was like, okay, do I belong here?
Yeah.
Am I supposed to be here? Now I sit in the room and I'm like, are they supposed to be here? Because it's it's because I learned to be comfortable, despite what my name is. I've learned to be comfortable with who I am and what I bring to the table.
Right.
But at night when I close the door, I'm Tynika all day. I'm Tynika in the boardroom or on those Zooms.
Yeah.
But it's because of the fact that I'm comfortable with being an African American woman who is successful, who knows what she's doing, who knows that she brings X, Y, and Z to the table.
Yeah.
And if anybody has a problem with it, it's not my problem. Yeah. It's theirs.
Do you have a problem with me calling you Tynika?
Oh, so we're just going to use my whole government name? I don't know if we know each other that well, Tim, for you to be calling me Tynika.
You can call Is that what your family calls you?
Yes, they call me, you can call me Tynika, that's fine.
Have they called you, was it Ty growing up too?
So my little brother called me Ty. He was the only person that ever called me Ty. My mother still calls me Tynika. There's still people that call me Tynika. If people get to know me like you do, they'll go, hey, Tynika, and then I just snap, you don't know me like that.
Yeah.
But you could call me Tynika, that's fine. I love my name. I really do. I love it.
But that's the thing, don't call me Timothy.
Why not?
Because that's what my mom calls me.
Do you feel like...
When I feel like I'm getting in trouble. When somebody...
Do you have a middle name?
I have no middle name,
okay.
So it's just Timothy Witherspoon Jr.
Okay.
But I'm going to be honest, too, though. The other reason, one of the main reasons why I was like, I got to have this person on my shows because of your political.
Yes.
Your political. I don't even know your political views, but the political party that you support.
Yeah.
You are. This is a lot right off the bat.
I like it though. I mean, this is a real show. This is what we're supposed to be doing. He's nervous. So I will tell you all.
No, let me say it. Because let me get it out.
It's like it's dirty.
Let me get it out. No, because we went from the whole Tynika Byers story.
Yeah.
Right? And you saying that you changed your name to Ty Fellenberg. I did not even realize that the show was going to come together like this because now we're going to announce that you are also a Republican.
I am.
Which is part of who you are. We just said you get to choose who you are. This is part of who you are.
Yeah, so I decided to become a Republican, and I will say this before everybody's like, oh my gosh, she's black and she's a Republican. She doesn't know who she is. I know who I am. For those that need a resume, you know, some of my favorite lecturers are Dr. John Henrik Clark. You know, I am very deep into African history. I know my history. I know where I come from. But I became a Republican because I believe in the ideals of the Republic of the United States. A lot of people say, well, we're a democracy. Technically, the United States was constructed as a republic. Meaning it was for the people, and I am
constitutional.
Right. So I'm a constitutional Republican, which means that I believe in the Constitution. And though the people that wrote that Constitution did have their hypocritical views, be it racist, misogynist, or whatever, but the ideals in which America was constructed is what I believe in.
Okay. How do you feel about the ideals of what you believe from how the country was constructed to how the party is today?
I think the party today is a bastardized version of what this country was supposed to be founded for, despite the fact that people that look like you and I weren't considered human at the time that it was written. But the idea in a perfect world that it doesn't matter your sexual identity, doesn't matter your race, your socioeconomic standing, that you are a human being that deserves basic human rights, and that you shouldn't be treated any differently simply because of the color of your skin or who you choose to sleep with. You know, and we unfortunately don't have that at this point in our country. It's a chess game, and it's a power struggle at this moment. And Republicans and Democrats really are at this point. What Republicans are now are of the same coin. They're just different sides.
So like me, I feel like I don't support anybody anymore.
Yeah.
When I opened up, I still vote. But when I opened up my gym, I didn't get any help from anybody, no government thing. And what happened was I didn't have time to even focus on politics.
Right.
Before I went into business, my mentors and everything wanted me to go into politics. And I'm like, possibly, but I got too many skeletons in my closet. but
that's
now,
okay.
But now that I'm doing what I'm doing, I'm like, it's very rare to see somebody in politics like you that is a Republican. One of my favorite presidents that I love studying is Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
A guy who freed the slaves.
Right.
You know? But even though he did that, he didn't always necessarily think that black people were equal. I feel like that's still true today in some cases. And there's probably some Democratic people that feel that way as well. But how do you feel about people like me feeling that way about the Republican Party?
I think that those feelings are valid. I think, going back to Abraham Lincoln being one of your favorites, he was a Republican. A lot of people don't know that he was actually black. His mother was
made fun of a lot.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at some of his political, when he was running, some of the propaganda used to say Abraham Africanus, because his mother was Macungian. So, it's interesting to me, the slaves were freed for economical reasons, not because it was the right thing to do. So going to that, the Republican Party has again evolved into what's best for those in power, and what's best for those people that have the most money, and it still stands. And so for you to feel that way, I feel the same way. As a Republican, I feel the exact same way. I watch what's going on in the news. I watch what's going on in the White House now, and even before, when Trump was in office or whatever else. This society, this democracy that we currently find ourselves in is not a democracy at all. And to realize that democracy is dead and gone in this country is frightening. Is very frightening. And so now the question becomes, what does the Republic, we as the Republic, do to get our country back from those who relish and roll around in power and greed?
I've already lost hope.
That's not good.
But it's also made me change my mind to think that what I'm going to do is help out the people the way that I can help out the people, because no one helped me.
Right.
So now my job is to help out other people and be kind of like their stepping stool to get up to where they need to be. No government subsidies come through here. I don't have any. I'm lying. Obamacare. I do. I do. I'm going to be honest.
There's nothing wrong with that, though.
My insurance is.
There's nothing wrong with that.
By that. But that's the only thing that they have done for me. So I'm here like, man, I have a little bit of power by being who I am now. Let me start this nonprofit. Help out these kids that need help and stuff. What should our new party be called?
See, I know, and that's the thing of it. It's like, I've said to somebody, I'm like, we really should start a new party, but at what point does that become confusing to people? And I really feel like the word Republican we should go back to basics. You're doing it for the community. You're doing it for the people. You're doing it for the public. You're technically, in my eyes, because
I'm not a Republican.
No, but the basic, and I studied
tribalism in me.
Yeah, I'm not. But I studied Latin for 8 years. Like, I'm all about words, and the basis of that word is for the public, and the things that you do for the public to advance their lives, to make their lives better, to give them a better chance. I often say, we need to take back that word Republican and make it a good word again. It needs to be rebranded in a sense, because nothing that the Republican Party is doing right now is for the people at all.
Right.
Nothing that the Democratic Party is doing right now is for the people at all. And so maybe we should just rebrand the word Republican, kick the bastardized version of the GOP of what they think they're doing as good Republicans, and take it back.
Right.
Because Black people were Republicans up until Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah. That's another one of mine. I like Teddy and FDR.
Yeah.
And I like Eleanor Roosevelt as well.
Yeah, she was too. Yeah.
But anyway,
no, I think I love that. But see, history is important.
Oh, definitely.
I think that if Black people understood that, listen, we were Republicans up and Teddy Roosevelt used to be a favorite of mine too, until I found out what he did.
Yeah.
And
was it Japanese?
Was
that FDR?
I think it was FDR, but Teddy Roosevelt, the reason why Black people stopped voting Republican is because there's an event in history called the Brownsville Affair. Basically, there was a Black regiment that lived in a town, I believe it was in Texas, and there was a white bartender that was killed. The town said it was the army or whatever, the Black army, and so Roosevelt, without even investigating or anything, stripped them of their military service and dishonorably discharged them. Everybody was upset. You didn't investigate it, and Teddy Roosevelt kept it as such. And from that moment on, that's actually one of the points in history where Black people said, you know what, we're no longer voting Republican, we're going to vote Democrat. But we don't know that about our history, American history, but history is important.
No, definitely, because if you don't know,
right, you're bound to repeat it, and we're repeating it now because we don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man, there's so many things that I want to get.
Go.
I don't want to jump here and jump there, but so we're talking about history, and this whole thing with Whoopi Goldberg just came up. Yeah. And you happen to have a German ex-husband.
Yeah, my current husband is Jewish.
Yeah. That's perfect to ask your opinion on this topic.
Yeah.
I really haven't researched it to the depths where other people have, but I guess she said that the Holocaust was not racist.
Yeah, she said it wasn't based on race. She said it was based on the fact that it was about people not treating others in a humane fashion. It was about one group of people not recognizing the humanity in another, basically, is what she was trying to say. But the way it came out was, she said it wasn't about race, and people were up in arms about it. I get what she was trying to say.
Right.
And I, to a point, I agree with her. It was about not recognizing humanity in another person. But you kind of have to be very careful, especially in the seat in which she sits, about what you say, because she may have evolved historically. She may have evolved, but a lot of people haven't. When people realize that race is used to control other people, it's really a control mechanism, not the fact that you are different than a white person, but that's a sense of control. She realizes that, and she said it, and she tried to take race out of it and just show the human part of it, but she messed it up.
I feel like she fell into what a lot of us fall into, is the modern idea of what racism is, instead of understanding what it was at the time. And not just her. I have, like, my mentors, like, 2 of them are Jewish. And they were the ones who brought it to my attention. Did you see what Whoopi Goldberg said? I didn't think she said anything wrong. I didn't think but me doing a little bit of research I did, I'm like, wait a minute, Hitler did say that he wanted to make a master race. And that the Jews were not part of that race. So a little bit of both could be true in a sense. It's good hearing from you,
Yeah, it's, I used to live in Berlin, Germany. It's interesting going to, they have the Holocaust survivors thing. It's very, very interesting. You can go to where Hitler, killed himself. It's very interesting. Outside of Berlin, you can go to where they were holding Holocaust people. It's when you go into that city, you can feel it, you can feel it. There's
a lot of deniers out there.
You can feel the fact that there were 6 million people that lost their lives, in this tiny space. But as far as Hitler and, the Jews being massacred the way they were, it's a horrible time in history, and I understand why a lot of Jewish people are up in arms about what Whoopi said. But on the flip side of that too, I often say, and sometimes when I have these discussions with my husband, I said, so 6 million Jews were killed. I said, how many African American? I always say it. Because I like to have these conversations, and it's not a comparison, but let's have those conversations too.
Because it goes deep.
It does. It goes very deep. And I say, and he said to me before, he said, if I were Black, I would be dead by now. Yeah. Because of the way that African Americans are treated worse than, and he says it, worse than Jewish people are. He said, I would be dead. He said, because I just couldn't imagine the things that people that look like you, your ancestors or everything else, and he says, yes, 6 million of my people were killed. He said, and it's horrible. He said, when you compare it to the massacre of people that look like you and your ancestors, he said, it's why isn't the same uproar given to people that look like you that are given to to people that look like me? So it's that conversation is always interesting to me.
Crazy because, again, to talk about my mentors, they constantly say, I can walk every day and no one asks me if I'm Jewish or not, and both are tragic. Yeah. Both are tragic.
Yeah, they are.
Both are humans acting horrible to other humans.
Yep.
When it comes to America and the way that we treated these situations, it's kind of rough. Me being an African American, thinking like you guys give money to Israel every year of taxpayer money to take care of people that weren't even American citizens. And African Americans are here told to suck it up, make a better life for yourself, because that's what we're taught to do. We're told to do. But then again, 6 million versus we don't know how many.
But it's but I look at it. I'm like, it's not. When I say that, it's not a comparison.
Yeah,
it's
try not to.
Yeah, but it's very difficult to It doesn't matter if it was 6 million people or 120 million people. Human lives were lost, but the way in which those people or the ancestors of those people that were killed are treated two different ways. And that's a travesty. It's horrible. And the question is, why are they treated two different ways? We have two different major tragedies in history, some of which still goes on. And so why does this happen? And I think that because people that look like you and I, we're not given the power. One, we don't have the power. Two, I think it's because a lot of us don't know where we're from. We don't know our history. We don't know our lineage. I think Ancestry.com is a wonderful place to start, but that doesn't tell you who your family is from, so that you can go back and say, my family's from here. I'm gonna build my home back. Where some people of certain ancestries or certain descents can do that because they can trace it back.
Yeah.
So I think that people that look like you and I lose a little bit of power because we don't know where we come from.
It's changing a little bit. Yeah. Because we do have things like Ancestry.com, 23andMe, and those companies, and technology, and social media. But even before you get into knowing who you are or anything, it's just the basic humane rights of humans. Our grandparents, they might have been able to vote, or they might have not been able to vote. How can you be someone that has a say in society when you can't even vote? And some of these people are still alive today.
Yeah, they are.
But I bet you, these Jewish people have a lot of say in our government and everything. And this is not. I hope that people don't take this as I have anything against the Jewish community. This is not anti-Semitic or anything like that. This is me talking about how the government, and essentially what it boils down to is the reparations and the treatment of certain groups that have done horrible things. And even Japan, even the Japanese, they get American taxpayer monies, but the people that just live here. Anyway.
But that's a great topic. So the question is why do certain groups of people that have through history have gotten horrible treatment have gotten an apology and reparations, and why haven't black people gotten the same thing? And so that's a very interesting question. And
we're gonna get it. You know why? Because they're gonna nominate the first African American Supreme Court justice.
Yeah, that boggles my mind. I mean, it's funny because I watch the. I'm a news fan. I watch the news even though it's very slanted. And to watch people become up in arms about the fact that Biden wants to, nominate a black woman, speaks to the what's the word I'm searching for? Speaks to the way that our country is. If you look at the Supreme Court, I mean, that's a representation, I think, of the way in which our country is and the power dynamics, I believe. The fact that people are upset because he wants to nominate a black woman is interesting, but that also speaks to the fact that they nominated Obama, that Obama was president, and now we have Kamala as the vice president. I'm like, does that really change anything? No. Has anything changed since Obama's been in office? No.
The same laws that the people before us wrote are still on the books today. The same rules. So
the question is how do we fix it? How do we, and how do we go forward? I heard you were gonna fix it. I heard that.
I heard that that's what was gonna happen.
I would like to. I haven't really decided. I would love to get into politics. I don't think that people are ready for my voice yet. I don't think that people. I really don't. I don't.
What makes you say that?
Because of the way that I think, I really believe that there needs to be a redraft of the Constitution. Ooh. I think that there needs to be a redraft. Ooh. It needs to be rewritten.
And you know.
I mean, if you read it,
how are you gonna convince the Confederate flag, gun toting, pickup truck driving?
You want to know
people
how?
That
and I'm going to
need to rewrite the Constitution, which I don't even know, is that legal or not?
Listen, there's amendments in the Constitution. I mean, yes, you can do that, and for posterity, yes, the Constitution can sit as it is, but the Constitution needs to reflect the current state of affairs and the way. So all men are created equal. What about women? What about other people that identify with other sexual identities?
You sound like a Democrat, right?
But that's not. It's about the people.
Is this AOC we've got on the show here?
No, not at all. Not by any means. I know. No, but it's about the people, and I really don't think that the basic tenets of in which our country was created reflects people, everybody. It doesn't include everybody at all. And I think that if we really look at the Constitution and change a word here, change a word there, you can do that. Yeah. But it needs to be rewritten. It needs to be inclusive. And then you really dive deep into the laws, and you really have to start to reconfigure and reconstruct the way in which we govern. I mean, there's so much that goes to it.
Sounds great.
Is it possible?
I agree with it. I think that is a hard fight.
It is.
You have you always had your loyalists, and you have always had people that were, I guess, people that wanted to have change.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
It's difficult, but I saw Trump coming a mile away. I knew he was going to be elected.
Yeah.
I knew there were certain things that happened before Trump was elected. For instance, I knew that Trump was going to be elected. I don't know if you remember. I think it happened in 2005, 2006. Anyway, you remember when a group of people took over the Oregon Wildlife Refuge?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Do you know why that happened?
No. I can't remember.
So the U.S. government used eminent domain.
And they didn't want to.
And so the government was like, to these white farmers they said, or whatever they were, I don't know if they were farmers or whatever, but basically they said, we're taking your 500 acres without paying you for it. And these white farmers or whatever, like, no, the hell you're not. Yeah. And they set that 500 acres on fire. And then they said, oh, you want to take our stuff without paying for it? And they went and the Oregon Wildlife, and they took that over for, I forget how many days.
Trump wanted to pardon them.
Right. But this was before Trump was even.
Right.
But so when they shot the leader in the street, and well, not on the street, but they were chasing him, it was like a whole thing. And this whole thing went down. I said, that group of people that feel like this is their country, the government cannot treat them this way. And when they started to retaliate and the government started to treat them, and I'm going to say this, and it's going to ruffle some feathers, but it's really the way it looked. When they started to treat them like Negroes, when they started to treat them like this wasn't their country, and that they weren't that's when I realized that Trump was going to win. Because Trump was now the voice for the people that felt like their country was being taken from them and they weren't being recognized, and their voices weren't being heard, and that's how Trump won. And that made sense to me. I was like, yeah, okay.
They still feel that way right now.
But it's not a shock to me. Yeah. You know, it wasn't a shock to me when he was elected. Yeah. It's not a shock to me that he's doing these things. And the other part of it is that it's a game. You know, it doesn't matter. Whoever's in power right now, whatever they tell you, they're promising to do, they always renege, always. They always go back on their word. They always, we're going to promise you this, and then it doesn't happen. Or the things that they do promise you are really superficial, and the whole scheme of the things, it really doesn't freaking matter anyway. But, you know, as far as Trump is concerned and him possibly winning, I mean, the way that he's going about it, I'm going to pardon all the rioters, that whatever. Those are all chess moves. Those are all, I'm going to control you. We're in a narcissistic relationship with our government. It's a toxic relationship with our government.
Yeah, you just spit a lot of game right there.
We're in a very toxic relationship.
I see the same thing going on with just the genetic change of our country. More kids are looking like my children. Yeah. More brownness is coming into the forefront. And I see, unfortunately, certain people seem to be panicking that is actually occurring. Yeah. Do you think that is a major issue in our country right now? The changing of minorities, as you would say.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely a problem. I believe Time Magazine a while back put out that by 2050, white people will no longer be the majority, even though if you look at the world population, they're not. But, but in this country, that everybody will be, of mixed race, mixed heritage, and you won't be able to discern who's what or whatever else. So I think that's a concern. I understand why certain white supremacy groups do act and think the way that they do. They feel like they're no longer gonna, the people that look like them are no longer gonna be around. So it's a self-preservation mindset. I get it. I understand it. I was watching something where there's a whole town the whole town is just white supremacists, but the way to listen to them, it was, we just are trying to preserve who we are and the people that look like us. If I don't know how that would feel if I felt like, people that look like you and I were going to disappear.
So, this the crazy part is almost we can't unless it's a genocidal thing, because I don't even know how we got here, but our gene is dominant as far as, I've had, my girlfriend, when she was pregnant, I was teasing her. I was like, yo, how does it feel to have a black baby? How does it feel, that you're going to have a black baby? Yeah. And she doesn't, she loves our son. Yeah. She never thought about color, like, as far as that goes. But my son came out super white, super light, but you can see
that he's
black.
Yeah.
She'll be with him in the supermarket, and people will actually approach her and say, "Is his dad black?" I've been there.
Really?
I've been there, and specifically, there was two African couple. They had stopped her and said, "Is his dad black?" As I'm walking around to the aisle and come up to him,
that's interesting.
And the African people, I knew it. We just have that dominant trait,
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, but it's I think that throughout history, and you can see throughout history, there's always been a fear of our genetic disposition. I really feel like, I know somebody asked me, where do you think white supremacy came from? And I think that white supremacy was born out of the perception of black supremacy.
Yeah.
And, to me, it's just simple fear that's caused this division of humanity, because truly humanity, and some people hate when people say that, but it's true. The only race is the human race. And then there's variations of the human race. There's only one. And I think that which is very hard for us to untangle at this moment, is how do we take race out of our society? But I think that the way that we need to understand it is we have to understand how race is utilized in the control of society. And I don't think that people really truly understand the control mechanism in which race is used.
It's much deeper than that. Even Hotel Rwanda.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But that comes from, that comes from in history too. I mean, you have the Tutsis in Africa, the other group of people, but one was light skinned and tall, and the other one was dark. But that came from the people that came in. So
it still goes on.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, there's a specific person in my family, I don't want to say his name, me and the producer Jordan, we just got done talking about this. This person, I know, he prefers his children to marry African American kids. His kids are black too.
Okay.
But he will not date an African American woman that is dark skinned. All of his baby moms, he has a few, are light skinned.
Interesting.
Freckles. Stuff like that.
Interesting.
So, how can you have a preference for your children when you have your type, and that you won't even date? I've never seen him date anyone.
Anyone
darker hue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. I think that goes to the psychological part of it. For me, when I look, can tell you on one hand how many black men I've dated.
Yeah.
Me
too. Well, zero black men.
But psychologically, I had to psychoanalyze myself. Like, why do I gravitate towards white men? And so I came up with the answer.
Okay.
And psychologically, for me, the way I grew up, my mother, most of my life, dated white men.
Okay.
Psychologically, most women tend to date men that are like the men in their lives between the ages of 3 and 11.
Okay.
Between 3 and 11, my mom dated an Italian guy.
Right.
And then, she dated a black guy after that, but then there was a white guy after that. So during my formative years, a white man was in my life. So that's why I choose to date white men, because of the psychology of it. Do I not find black men attractive? I do.
Yeah.
But because based on the way I grew up and the psychology of it, I date white men. Now, in that particular instance, you never know, especially in the black community, colorism is definitely an issue, or whatever else. So you never know what the psychology of that person is if they were told, the paper bag test back in the day. If you're darker than a paper bag, then it's a problem.
Yeah.
So you never know if the psychology of that particular person, they were told never to be with somebody that's darker than a paper bag because you don't want dark black children. You never know.
Right. I hate to be. It's your podcast. I'm talking about you, but
No.
I'm relating to you so much.
Yeah.
I've never dated a black woman.
Really, that's interesting.
Yeah. Sorry, Angie. I have been with black women before, but I've never actually dated a black woman.
Why?
For me, it's kind of different than you. My dad was fortunate enough to move me to an area where people were more well off, where there wasn't many people that looked like me. That part wasn't fortunate. The fortunate part was I could get a good education, experience things that a lot of my relatives couldn't experience. I was the only black kid in my class until 7th grade. Something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
There was black kids in my school, but we weren't in the same class. So I was attracted to what I saw, what was around me, and the other thing was, excuse me to my sisters and my mom, but I psychologically,
say it.
I thought, like, look, you look like my sisters. I don't.
Yeah, I can't even. Yeah,
you look like my mom. I need something that looks different than that. So
that makes sense.
Early on in my life, I would say probably up until I left school, if there was a black woman and a white woman walking down the street, I would look at the white woman automatically. Then when I started to, I guess you could say, my man journey after school, traveling and everything, it started to even out. I'm like, whoa, that black girl look good, but by that time, sorry Angie again, I was already in a relationship.
Okay.
But now in my older age, I really appreciate the attractiveness of a black woman. But early on, psychologically, I couldn't do that. Do you have that kind of similar, like?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, once your world opens up, your perspective of people open up.
Yeah.
And I think that happened with you, and that most certainly happened with me. I never looked at black men like, ooh, like when I was younger, like, oh, I would definitely date him. I just never gravitated towards them. But as I got older and my world changed and I became more aware of who I am and where I come from, and to be able to speak to another black man about the history or whatever, that was, my world changed. I'm like, oh, he's good looking. Okay, I'll try it. But ultimately, still, my ultimate preference is what I like.
Yeah.
But that's because, again, of the way you grew up, the way I grew up. But yeah, when your world changes.
Yeah. Good.
Definitely. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong.
But that's a real conversation, and it's a difficult one for some. Go ahead.
That guy needs to let his children date whoever they want.
I agree.
Because what if it was his daughter wanted to date another female?
Yeah,
or
agree.
His son wanted to date another male.
I agree.
So we gotta open up like that.
Yeah, but then the question, how do you get them to open up? And I think him giving his children the permission to really explore the world without the prejudice, I think is really going to change his life too.
Yeah.
To be able to give your children the okay to just be who they want to be.
It should.
You should, whoever you are.
Whoever you are, we already know. Jordan,
I don't know.
Jordan, can I get some more wine?
Yes, wine.
No, Miss Fellenberg isn't drinking.
I'm drinking.
So you're here, you're wearing your fatigue.
Yes, I was actually in the military. I was gonna wear one that actually had my maiden name on it. I do have my old fatigue.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't even want to wear the bias.
I was like, do I wear the bias? Because that's gonna be a whole another conversation. And I was like, do I really want to go into that? I should have worn it anyway.
Yeah. So
yeah.
There's everything that we're talking about ties in together.
Yeah.
There's a history of the way that African Americans were treated in the American military and all that.
Absolutely.
You decided to join the reserves.
I did. I joined the reserves primarily because Well, I was in ROTC in high school. It was easy. It was fun. And then I was accepted to Rutgers as a biology pre-med major. And my first year, I pretty much flunked out. I was in New York all the time, and it was horrible. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm just going to join the military now. And so I joined the military, and I'm the weirdo that thought basic training was fun.
Yeah.
Like, I thoroughly enjoyed being gassed. I don't know. It was weird. I thoroughly enjoyed shooting and stuff.
As your boxing coach, I can tell.
You can?
Yeah. You're probably like, yeah, bring it on.
I was. I absolutely loved it. I remember, when we had FTX and we were crawling under the barbed wire and there's stuff shooting overhead. Like, I love that stuff. And, my experience in the military may have been different than other people's. And I don't know why. I just know that for me, the military was easy. It is wrought with incompetence. And I will have to say that I know throughout my military career, I still don't know how I wasn't kicked out because, the incompetence meaning that there were people in leadership positions that didn't know how to lead, didn't know how to get their, company from point A to point B, and I was very vocal about it, even as a private first class and a specialist. But I would have to say that I had a positive experience in the military. I never really saw any sort of like racism. I know it exists, but I never saw it. I know that there's sexism. Yeah. I never saw it. Yeah. But I don't know, maybe it's because of where I went for basic training or AIT or where I served. So I don't know. Yeah.
So did you actually have to stay in like military
barracks and things like yeah, I had to do all that
because there might not have been racism or anything.
It exists.
I know that there's some crazy shit that goes on.
There are some crazy things. I think that given that my experience in life, a lot of people say I have it easy, maybe because of the way I was raised or the way I would look or whatever else. Like I may have had it easier. But yeah, I mean, I've seen other people be sexually harassed, I guess. But I know that rape culture is very real in the military. And maybe I was looked after.
As well.
Oh, God. That infidelity in the military is like, having another pair of combat boots. It's normal. Like they call, like most married men in the military, they're called geographic bachelors. I mean, that's a known fact.
Like boxers.
Yeah.
Like boxers.
I mean, infidelity is, that's nothing new in the military.
What was your job in the military?
So I was an 88 Mike, which is a truck driver.
Really?
Yeah, so I could drive 18-wheelers and 5 tons and 2.5 tons and things like that. That do the air uncoupling and coupling. So that was my job. And then the last year I was in a drill sergeant training program, as a drill sergeant. So yeah.
And how many years did you serve?
I only served 4.
Okay.
And then I got out. I had some medical issues, and I wound up getting out. But yeah, it was fun in the motor pool. I enjoyed the motor pool, and
If it wasn't for your medical issues, do you think you would have continued?
No.
You were done with it.
I just don't do well with incompetent leaders.
Yeah.
And I don't do well with plans that only make sense maybe on paper and not in reality. And the bureaucracy of it all was something that I could not be a part of.
So do you think that you couldn't have been the change? Or you could have never reached that level?
In the military, no.
Yeah.
Because you either follow orders or you don't.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter which way you come in, really. You have to follow orders or your whole life is destroyed, and you can't really be the dissenting voice. If you're the dissenting voice, then, it's possible that you'll be dishonorably discharged, or it's possible that your military career could be affected some other way.
How it works, but people get promoted.
Yeah, if you do what you're told.
So that was the issue, really.
If you follow orders and you do what you're told blindly,
Yeah.
Because once you
still,
sign your name on
the
line,
Tanika in you. Look at
Tanika surfaces.
Yeah, she surfaces.
She does, and I always say that to people. I'm like, do you want Ty or Tanika? Because Tanika can surface, and she's a totally different person than the person you're seeing now. So yeah, Tanika surfaced quite a bit in the military, and we were not a good fit.
Did you ever get seriously in trouble?
I should have.
Yeah.
I should have a couple times. But I wound up because I wasn't afraid to speak up. And because I was so vocal in front of a lot of people, and I pretty much said what everybody was thinking about this particular leader, I more or less I apologize, but you can't talk like that to me anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a couple times that I should have gotten in trouble, but I can't help it. I'm one of those people that if I see something being done wrong, that I can't sit there and be quiet. I have to speak up for those that don't have a voice for themselves, don't have the courage to speak up for themselves. So I've always been that person, military or not.
So then you had a gallstone bladder, gallstones, or how did you?
No.
You got out of the military. We don't have to say what it was.
No. I had like horrible ovarian cysts, and I had to have a lot of surgeries and things like that. Okay. So that primarily is how I got out. Yeah. Right. It was being a woman sometimes is not fun.
And
so that's how I got out.
We probably could have a whole nother podcast about just that part.
Yeah, totally.
You leave the military, and then what do you do with yourself? What's next?
So I left the military, and I pretty much just traveled around. I got into real estate. I took my real estate license exam, so I was selling real estate in North Jersey for a little bit. Didn't particularly like that too much. And then I've just done so much. I'm like trying to figure out my life. I've like lived so many lives.
Crazy,
Yeah.
You've done a lot. Well, when was your singing career? You didn't have one of those?
I didn't have a singing career. Okay. I cannot sing. I did not get that gift. But no, I mean, I've done so much. I've done acting. I've directed films. I've produced stuff, so I have done so many things in my life, and I'll be 41 this year. And so this is like I feel like there's going to be 7 or 8 more lives in addition to the 15 I've already lived. But yeah.
So you said you went to Rutgers for biology?
Yeah, I did.
Where did this communication bug come in?
I've always had this communication bug. I've always liked the camera. I've always loved interviewing people. I've always loved just getting to the nitty-gritty of situations or topics that people may have been afraid to broach. So I've always had it as a little kid, and I think the defining moment for me was when I was 9 years old. My mom got me a karaoke machine, and instead of singing in this karaoke machine, I decided to interview anybody I could, and just really sit there and have deep discussions with my little brother, or the next door neighbor or something like that. So I've always been into it, and then I wound up helping a friend produce a radio show, and I realized I absolutely loved it. I loved hosting shows. That was fun. But I always more or less like being behind the camera, like Jordan.
Yeah, that's like going from the military into communication.
Yeah,
it's
a jump. It's a jump. I think I really never knew who I was. As a kid, I can remember my mom going, "You're going to be a doctor. You're going to be a doctor." I'm like, "No, I don't want to be a doctor." "No, you're going to be a doctor." I was a lifeguard as a kid, so I was like a swimming instructor, and I did all that stuff, and but I never truly did what I wanted to do. I felt like I always did stuff for my mom, or I always did something for what everybody else wanted me to be other than me. So when I got into communications, and I felt like, oh my God, this is it, got my degree in communications and just really took it on, I felt like I was finally being the person that I was supposed to be. And this is just the beginning.
When do you feel like that occurred in your life where you felt like, wow, this is actually where I'm supposed to be. I know when I felt it.
How old were you?
33.
Yeah, I was about 27, 28.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you get sick of being what everybody else wants you to be. You know, you get sick of taking this mask and constantly putting on. But at night, you know, are you really happy with who you are? Are you really happy with the degrees that you've gotten? Are you really happy with the business that you may have built? It may be successful, but is that really who you are?
For me, it was retiring from actually being a boxer.
That's interesting.
And spending 3 years of finding myself and what I was good at. Mm-hmm. And between those 3 years is when I opened up the gym. And I really realized that helping out other people and being of service is actually where I would, rather be. Boxing is a very self-serving sport. We do it to entertain people, but at the end of the day, you're doing it to make that money, to be the man,
right?
To be the best.
So that's my question. Did you always want to be a boxer? Or is it because of your dad, or why did you?
I feel like it's crazy to say. My mindset was different back then, so it's like I always was going to be a fighter, even if my dad wasn't who he was. Like it's just in me. It was. Yeah, yep. It's just who I am. Mm-hmm. The part that made me turn off from it is not the fighting part. That's still in me. That's still, I love to do it. The business side of things, where you got to get up and you got to fight. You got to do all this hard work, but then the worth or how much you get from it is starting not to even up. And some people that doesn't happen. They keep getting higher worth, but for me it was like then life situations happen and you're like, man, there's got to be
something better here,
so that's when I was like, then I started training people, making crazy money an hour.
You're like, okay, I think I could do this. No, I totally understand that and I agree with it. And my switch into communications was to help other people. I mean, but
did you graduate from Rutgers with that?
No, I did not. I graduated from Delaware State University.
Okay.
HBCU.
DU?
DSU.
That's not the Blue Hens.
No, it's not the Blue Hens.
Do they have a mascot, a team?
It's been a long time since I've been there. It's been a long time. Right. The Hornets. We were the Hornets.
The Hornets? Okay.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Listen, if you want my true feelings, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day, our educational system in this country. Yeah. But,
let's talk about it now.
No.
Let's talk about it now.
Well, okay, let's talk about it. Yeah. Clearly our education sucks in this country. We're ranked in math and English, and we're horrible. Yeah. I mean, there are people I know that have master's degrees that barely know how to read. How did you get a master's degree and you can't formulate a sentence, nor do you know where punctuation's supposed to go, and you have a master's degree?
Right.
I'm just. Okay, so
let me relate to you again. There's black belts that never spar before.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how do you get a black belt and you never spar before? I
don't understand that. The other part of that is that a lot of higher institutions get funding depending on how many people they pass through successfully through their institution. I found and people are gonna be like, I can't believe you said that, but it's true. Especially with HBCUs, I can tell you that they will pass students through with a C average, even if they're failing, simply to get the funding for their institution. Yeah. So a lot of a lot of colleges, universities really aren't educating their students. It's all it is a business, and to get the funding for it, and that's it, and that's sad.
Yeah.
So then the question becomes, how do we fix the education in this country?
Yeah.
How do we make sure that your children, mine that don't exist yet, but maybe one day, but how do we make sure that they really are going to be able to compete with kids from another country? They can't right now.
No. We're gonna have a lot of carpenters and plumbers.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being in the service industry, and to be honest with you, that industry is great because without them, I mean, if my toilet stops up,
and they make good money.
They make incredible money, So the service industry, go for it. If you don't ever want to go to college or anything else, go be an electrician, go be a plumber, there's nothing wrong with that. However, if you go into higher education and you decide to go into higher education, sometimes that's really not worth it. Sometimes that piece of paper is not worth the paper that it's printed on.
Definitely.
And your life experiences are really way more than somebody's college degree. But the only reason why they ask for a college degree is to make sure that you're going to finish something, not because...
They're still going to teach you what you need to know when you get to that job.
I don't feel like my college degree. I feel like my college degree was just for them to say, okay, she finished college, she's accepted in. It's just to open a door, but it doesn't keep you there. You
mentioned HBCUs earlier, and you're giving me an opportunity to speak about a gripe that I have with the Republican Party.
Okay.
Because one of their key accomplishments was that Trump gave the most money to HBCUs ever.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that and I went home and I did the math.
Mm-hmm.
And they were coining this as he has done more for Black people. And I forget how many. There's only it's something like 100,000 students or something. Some ridiculous, some low number of students that go to HBCUs, and there's 40 million African Americans in this country. So there's 39,900,000 African Americans that has no impact on. If you say that one of their kids going to school might impact them, let's even just make it 39 million people. How is that an accomplishment?
It's not. That's propaganda. That's what we call, ladies and gentlemen, propaganda. That does not have any bearing. But you have to understand, at this point of the game, anything that comes out of a politician's mouth is skewed to make you think a particular way and not actually give you the reality of a situation. So when you hear...
do the math.
Do your own research. Please know that it doesn't matter what that politician looks like. It doesn't matter any of that if it usually isn't gonna add up, unfortunately, and so when you hear numbers like that, I always say to people being in news, where did the stats come from? Where did the statistics come from? Because even then somebody can pull statistics and you can make anything look a particular way depending on where you get your stats from. So, and you need to make sure that those statistics are reputable, and you need to make sure that even when you do your own math or you do your own research, that where you're getting that information from is reputable, because most of the time it's not. And anything that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth, I mean, I think we've learned now to take that with a grain of salt. But to be honest with you, anything that comes out of a politician's mouth, not all of them, because we are trying to make some changes, but generally, if they've been in office for a while or they've been around that crowd for a while,
there's a lot of that conversation going on with Joe Rogan right now.
The COVID, with Spotify, I just
How do you feel about news organizations who cater to a certain group of people?
I believe all news organizations.
Yeah, they do. Not. I don't want to say a certain, but you're in communication.
Okay, I will say this. So I did news production. I had a 6 o'clock newscast for an ABC affiliate out of Maryland, and there were certain stories I couldn't tell. If it affects the shareholders, you can't tell those stories. The other thing is that especially in local news, you only get your news from 6 different sources. And a lot of those sources are kind of controlled by the government, one. Yeah. The other thing is that the news will change to fit a narrative. I can't tell you how many stories that I've written. At 9 a.m., it would be one story, and then by the time it got onto my show, it was a completely different story. So I always tell people, if you want the real story, the first 15 or 20 minutes that it happens, that's usually the truth. The longer that they have to construct the story or whatever else. Yeah. So the news, if you watch it now, is completely slanted. It doesn't matter if you're watching Fox, CNN, it doesn't matter.
Definitely.
I would, when we have journalists now that are doing it on Instagram or they're doing it on whatever, I think that that's where the new crop of journalists are going to come out because they're actually trying to tell the truth, and it's not skewed. There's no political or monetary gain from.
But there is a little bit.
A little bit.
We're on a podcast. We all know that's the future. Yeah. We're giving it out for free, trying to reach as many people as we can. When you start thinking, man, I said this, what is it? Some kind of horse tranquilizer works, and I instantly get 500,000 more views. That is going to skew you to continue to go in that direction, because in the society we live in today, views equals
money.
How do we in this society counteract that? You can't. There's too many. It's the Wild Wild West now with information.
Well, it's you. I feel like so let's say your podcast, you're going to talk about that horse tranquilizer, right? We'll use that as an example. We'll use it as an example. Yeah. Does the monetary gain from that horse tranquilizer, you saying that, does that go with your morals and your values as to why you started the podcast originally?
Yeah. So that's the thing with Joe Rogan, okay? Joe, don't. I'm talking to a lot of people that ain't even around and don't even care.
You never know who's gonna listen.
But he's one of the inspirations for me even starting my own podcast. Back in the day, there was no controversial this side, that side. He was just talking to people the way that we're talking to people. I feel like once he got the deal with Spotify, that a lot of that changed. I don't know what changed. It's not for me to say, but I noticed a clear line from one day I enjoyed this to the next day I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Like, in what sense? Like, what was one specific?
Before, he would have guests on, let's say Elon Musk, or we talked about Kanye West or Dave Chappelle, and he'd be asking them straight up questions about themselves and stuff. And now I feel like there's a lot of people, a lot of guests on there where he's trying to stir the pot, trying to go for a certain demographic. I don't know if it's because that's monetary. I know that right-wing media makes a hell of a lot of money. I listen to NPR, which we have to donate money to. I don't know what it is, but I've noticed a difference myself in this podcast.
Well, money often talks.
Yeah.
And sometimes when people come from certain backgrounds, sometimes they want to be accepted into certain groups. And sometimes they feel that if they go a certain way, that they finally made it. So I think that people, if they do decide to get into communications, news, getting into, podcasts or whatever, that you really need to figure out what's the real reason why you're getting into that medium. Is it to help other people, or is it to become rich and famous? If it's to become rich and famous, I mean, do what you got to do, but you also have to understand your influence depending on how big you get.
Yeah.
You know, if it's to actually change the world in your own particular way, then money shouldn't move you one way or the other.
Yeah.
You know,
if you're pure, you're gonna make money.
It's gonna come. It's gonna come. But I feel like you're always gonna be tested. Yeah. You know, and whether or not you pass that test is up to you.
Right.
You have whatever. You know, you have your moral compass. You know what you're getting into something for. If something comes to you and it's off center to your moral compass, then you need to leave it behind and you need to judge it. And a lot of people, all they see is money and go, okay, I'll give this up, just even though that's really not who I'm about, but I get to have $1 million, so that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's true.
It's crazy. What is our political party going to be?
I don't know what you want to name
think of it.
You think of it, but I really think that we need a new one. I mean, we could run.
Do you think they're ready for? I'll let you be the president. A Republican president and a Democratic vice president. Are they ready?
I think we could do that
for the answer to the both party.
I think they're ready
for the 2-party solution.
I think they're ready.
Yeah.
I think they're ready. I think this country is ready for a real change, but they have to know that they're not being hoodwinked.
Well, that's the thing.
They have to know.
The word change already psychologically makes you think that shit's going to change, but we noticed with Barack Obama
that was his whole...
necessarily, 100% true. The only thing that changed is that we had our first black president, I feel like.
Yeah, that did absolutely nothing. That was to quell the black people, to say that they never got anything. That's the way I look at it.
If you talk to most black people today, I feel like they would say the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Nothing definitely changed. Well, in some cases you could say it got worse, unfortunately. But I think first, we need to truly understand how this country works and the mechanisms that are used to control the 300 plus million people that live in this country. And once we understand those control mechanisms, then we could learn to go around them. Because what you'll find in politics and things like that is that there's certain things that they'll do that they know we're going to react. For instance, if things are going along too well, all of a sudden a tape from 3 years ago pops out of a young black man being killed by a police officer. Yeah. Why didn't that come out when it happened? Why did you wait 3 years to sit on it? It's a game. No, it's a game to me, and they know that our community is going to come out in droves, and this is what's going to happen. But I truly feel that because this has been going on for so long, that not just the black community, but the American public needs to stop reacting the way that they expect us to react to certain things. And I think that if we change our reaction to certain things that they put in front of us, then our government will then become paralyzed and have to go, okay, we have to figure out another way in which to stir them or whatever else.
Same thing with mass shootings.
Yeah, it's a whole bunch. And mass shootings is about gun reform. And I say this, people are going to hate that I say this. But I'm gonna say it, no, I don't.
Let's get her some more wine, or you start to spill the tea. No,
I'm gonna say it.
But you know what? We might be close on the same. We might be on the same wavelength. Depending on what you say.
This is the way I look at it, and I believe I'm trying to think who said the same thing and got in a lot of trouble for it. I think it was Danny Glover. Anyway, the Second Amendment, our gun law. Second Amendment, yes. I believe that these mass shootings are a way to keep weapons out of the hands of Americans, right? But if you read the Constitution and you read the Second Amendment, that was created because just in case there was a slave revolt, that America could retaliate or whatever else, and that they could fight the slave revolt. Well, now the issue is that anybody that pays taxes is a slave now. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. It doesn't matter really your socioeconomic standing. Even if you make a $500,000 a year, technically you're still a slave.
To the dollar bill.
You're still a slave. And so I think that the Second Amendment is to control us in case the United States decides we don't want to do this anymore. And they know militarily and strategically where everything is in case they need to, hey, in this certain part, X amount of people have this many guns, and they know to send their military to a certain group of people. Like, I look at it in from an objective point of view.
Yeah.
There's a slave revolt that's coming. A lot of people are like, there's a civil war that's coming if it's not already happening.
Yeah.
But I think that January 6th is a sign of that slave revolt.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh my God, we're not slaves," or "But you are." It doesn't matter the color of your skin at this point. And if you don't realize the game that's being played, you're gonna fall victim to the propaganda that's on your news.
I realize that because the reason why I opened up my own gym is so I didn't have to work for somebody else.
Yeah.
I quickly realized,
Yeah.
I'm still working for the United States government.
You always will.
I'm still working for that paper, that dollar bill.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So how do we, because technically, we're not really, the taxes, the IRS is not a government entity, really, and so paying taxes the way we are really technically in the grand scheme of things isn't really legal.
Yeah.
And so how do we get back to basics?
Can you explain a little bit more?
Here we go. I feel like the history
we're gonna have to
teacher.
cut this into 2 parts, okay? We're gonna have to cut this. We're leaking into part 2 here.
The IRS is private, is it not?
I'm not sure. I know.
Google it.
I know that I always hear of them talking about getting rid of the IRS.
Listen, I understand paying taxes to fund our government, but I don't understand paying taxes to pay people that have been in office for 30 years. I don't understand if we're paying taxes why a bridge in Pittsburgh fell. I don't understand if we're paying taxes why the educational system in this country is the way it is.
But can I say something too about them taxes? Taxes. I love these police officers in this town.
Yeah.
I bump into them at Wawa. They got fresh new uniforms, new cars. Them cars wasn't the ones they had last year. They got everything that they need. Some of these taxes are working. They're not working to where everything is perfect, but that goes into a lot more, and I want to talk about that. But founded in 1862, the Internal Revenue Service is a U.S. federal agency responsible for the collection of taxes and enforcement of tax laws.
But the IRS is federally funded, right? But isn't it a private?
Right here it says it's a federal agency.
Might have to cut this one. I might be wrong.
Most of the work of the IRS involves income tax, both corporate and individual, and process nearly 240 million tax returns.
Right, but hold on a second.
Is the IRS? What's another way I can? A private company.
Right. It says some argue that the IRS is not an agency of the United States, but rather a private corporation because it's not created by positive law, and therefore the IRS does not have the authority to enforce revenue code. It's a revenue service for the federal government.
Yeah. So they can.
Unfortunately, they still take you out to prison though.
Right. Because it's so enmeshed with, but because the United States government uses them as a service.
Yeah.
Then the United States government can then use their power to say, well, we use this service to collect our taxes, basically a debt collection. And if you do not honor what this company that we've outsourced to collect our debt collection isn't collecting, then we are going to use our power as the United States to take you off to jail.
Mm-hmm.
So I say private. That's why I say private, because it's not.
How do you feel about taxes as a whole, though?
I think taxes. You're supposed to have taxes.
Yeah.
I think that taxes are supposed to fund.
Like you lived in Germany.
Yeah. I mean, taxes.
Do they have a national healthcare system?
Their healthcare system was the best healthcare system I ever had. Taxes are very high there, but every homeless person on the street had medical insurance, and it worked.
They had homeless people?
Yeah, there were some homeless people.
Yeah.
I mean, but even the prostitutes had medical insurance.
Yeah.
You know, like everybody had medical insurance. Yeah. So it's,
And, that kind of, okay, your taxes are a little bit higher.
Yeah.
But you're not paying every month for health insurance. So it offsets.
It works out.
It might even benefit you more to not have to pay your health insurance bill every month.
I had the best health care there.
Yeah.
When I tell you the best, I mean, if something was wrong, they didn't believe in doling out medicine for everything. There, sometimes it gets dark at like 3 o'clock, in the afternoon. And some people are affected by seasonal affective disorder there. So they're like, oh, instead of us giving you antidepressants, it has to be really bad for them to give you antidepressants. Here's a prescription to go to the gym.
Yeah.
Here's a prescription to go to the tanning salon. It was more geared towards actual health, right, than towards being dependent on drugs.
It's crazy.
So I believe in taxes. I think that taxes are a great thing. I think they're supposed to be, but I do not believe that taxes should be used to put money in the pockets of people that don't deserve it. And to actually have those tax dollars work for the people and not for the people in power.
Right.
So yeah.
What about churches?
Church is right. The fact that they don't have to pay taxes is interesting. I understand why they don't have to pay taxes, but the monstrosity in which some of these churches have become is horrible.
Right.
I'll never forget, who was it? Was it Creflo Dollar when he asked his congregation to basically pay for his jet?
Yeah.
Or I forget the other one where he said he needed a jet because he didn't want to be around demons or something like that. I forgot who that was. Right? Yeah, I forgot who that was. So yeah, it's I absolutely believe. I think funding the police, the whole defund the police thing is another thing that I think is absolutely outrageous. I don't believe in defunding the police.
Yeah, I think that was not the right way to put it. Me personally, I think that the police have enough money.
Yeah,
I think that, and I'm only saying this is because I'm not just talking about it. I'm actively doing something about it. I think that we should put more money in stopping these children or people getting involved with the police to even start with.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm going to be raising money for a gym in Camden.
Oh yeah.
Where they don't have the same opportunity that I had to fully equip my gym. So I'm going to help them equip their gym. So we can help keep some kids. You're not going to keep everybody off the streets, but that is a place that needs it. And we're going to get them the uniforms, the mouthpieces, the hand wraps, the gloves.
That's important.
And I'm in a bowling league right now.
You're in a bowling league.
And
that's the white side of you.
Young Black Suburban.
I'm just kidding.
It's okay. It's not the first time it's happened.
I'm just kidding.
So anyway, but it's a charity bowling league.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because at the end of the season, which our last game for the winter season was last week.
Okay.
We figure out, we have this money left over. Where are we going to donate it to? One of the guys suggested that we donate it to like a PAL type of organization, Police Athletic League or organization that takes care of the kids. And then another person said, I think we should donate it to the police. Two organizations that'll help them. there is a fight going on right now.
That makes sense. Why there's a fight?
I'm the only black person in the league.
I believe.
And I'm out of it. I'm not even saying anything. You know?
I'm glad I was sitting down for that one.
I know.
You wanted to say
well, you already knew. But it's crazy how even in their own culture, some people are like, yo, not defund the police, but the police don't need it.
Right.
We need to put it in other places.
Right. Yeah, I mean, as far as the police is concerned, as long as they're doing their job and they're trained correctly, if federal funds are going towards training them correctly or whatever else, that's great. Outside money that goes to them, I wouldn't necessarily do it. I mean, I understand why some people feel that way. I also see why some people would say give it to them, because for some people, their belief in their police department versus another person's belief in their police department are two different things. So I totally understand that. But you have to figure out what a person's viewpoint is on the people that are, making sure that they're safe at night. The police are very different, touchy. It's a very touchy subject these days. But as long as they're doing their jobs and they know the community and they really are on their jobs to help people and keep people safe, there's nothing. The police are there for a reason.
Part of the funding that goes to police should be, in my opinion, to do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Go into these gyms, go to these little league baseball practices, basketball leagues, or even tutoring.
Be a presence.
Be a presence, because every time we see them is when we're doing something bad. Or
You need a positive presence. You need something to offset that negative stigma. So that's why it always warms my heart to watch the videos. They have police officers playing basketball with the kids or dancing with the kids or whatever else. Yeah, it does make a difference.
Why isn't there a program for that anymore? There used to be the police athletic league. It's not really around anymore. And the police that are in this neighborhood, I'm cool with. I see them at the store. We talk about boxing and all that. But they don't come in. I need them to come in here.
So how do you get them in here? Have you talked to them?
I've asked them. There's a police officer in here that was in here when I was putting this floor down. And I'm like, yo, whenever you want to work out, just come in. They don't want to do it. The police officers that I have trained.
We may have to cut this part.
No, they need the training. They need to learn how to throw a 1, 2, 3 or a jab even, because the police officers, if it was just hand to hand,
they would lose.
Yeah.
But see, that's my other thing. Like, the hand-to-hand combat is great or whatever else, but how do you de-escalate a situation without having to put your hands on somebody, without having to pull a gun, why can't they learn how to, I feel like if they come in here, yes, learn the 1, 2, but also learn how to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's America's a different culture. I don't know how it was in Germany, but me living in England was a weird, crazy experience, because I got pulled over driving out, not me driving, but I was with someone leaving the pub. This will never happen in America. The guy clearly was drinking. They pull us out of our car. Not pull us, they ask us nicely, come sit in the back of our car. Now, it was a regular, no partitions. It was a regular car. They're just sitting in front of us, running our tags. We could touch them if we wanted to. Asking us simple questions. What were we doing there? But we saw you come out of the pub. That's why we pulled you over. We're sitting in back of Like that would not happen here. And all they did was say, "Okay, go home. Have a nice day." They don't carry guns there. The culture here,
it's the Wild Wild West.
It's different.
It's very different.
It's different. You go there, you might have to worry about a fist fight.
Right.
Knife crime is big. Knife crime is big. But you feel safer. You don't have to worry about getting shot from across the road.
Yeah.
You know.
I felt that way. I felt safe in Germany. I mean, when I was on the west part, not necessarily on the east part.
I don't know.
Well, so Berlin was split into the wall. So on the side that Russia had control of, it's a little bit dicier over there.
Okay.
But on the west side, I never was afraid to walk the street.
Like, what's up?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I never felt unsafe. I could walk the street at 3 a.m. in Berlin and be perfectly comfortable. Now there are other things I had to worry about, like weasels that would chase you down the street in the middle. It was weird living in a city, but I never really had to worry about crime there. So, but when I'm here and I'm home, like I said, I have to worry about getting carjacked.
You got the Ray camera.
I know. I have to worry about those things. But I believe that we have to worry about those things because the way in which our society is run in this country, poverty. We're wrought with poverty, and we don't have certain things that we should in a developed country. I think that if you really look at America, we're like a third world country here. The amount of homelessness we have here, the amount of children that can't read. It's astounding to me. But I think that that's why we have these sort of problems in this country, because of the fact that we don't have certain things.
It goes back to the educational thing too. At a very young age, if you taught these kids basic humanity things.
Yes.
Gun safety.
I agree.
I'm a Democrat that is not for taking away guns.
Yeah.
Because I understand that people in certain places use
need
them for certain things. But I am for educating children early on if you use this gun in this way, this is what the consequences are.
Absolutely.
And we don't do that in school right now, I have my gun license. I never bought a gun. I went to the gun range. I had huge anxiety. And I'm like, this isn't for me. I'd rather get punched in the face than have a gun.
Right. Guns are scary. If you don't know what you're doing, if you're not educated on them, if you're not properly trained, guns are a very scary thing. And I totally agree with you that if there was proper education, even for children, that, we wouldn't have the problems that we have now. I think some of the problems with kids too is that they're so desensitized with movies and all that other stuff that they don't realize the true consequences of shooting a gun. And so I completely agree. So when we run, we agree on gun reform. We agree on the gun situation.
Look at that.
See, we could just
We're
come together.
Bipartisan right now.
Totally. But that's the way it should be. And I think that Republicans and Democrats should be able to have this
the
discourse.
issue you have though with me being your running mate is they won't trust you as a true Republican because
but nobody cares about what they think. And I'm honest because the Republican Party as it stands now is bastardized. It really is a bastardized version. So the Republican Party, the bastardized version of it, I like to take things back to what things originally mean. They do not honor what a true Republican is. So whatever they have to say to me isn't, or whatever they think, because I believe that a Democrat, what you're saying is correct.
It goes both ways.
It doesn't matter.
It goes on both parties.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have to ask you this question.
Yeah.
Because not the only other Black Republican, but reminds me, and this person does not remind me of you.
Candace.
Mind-wise. Just the only thing that is that you both are Black female Republicans. I don't even know if she's a true Republican.
Candace Owens.
I didn't even say her name.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. How do you feel about Candace Owens?
I think that Candace, so when you look at her earlier videos, she does know who she is. But I think I think that she's been swayed by money. I think that the way that in which she's spouting her voice and things like that do not come from a position of education. And because of that, you can see the ignorance that she spouts, and she acts like the bastardized version of what the Republican Party has become. I don't think that it's fair to use religion or anything to make yourself feel better about calling a certain human being a certain name or making them feel a certain way simply because they don't believe in what you believe in, or simply because they don't act the way that you think that they should act. And I don't think that any person in politics that has a platform should do that. I'm not I was a fan of her in the beginning when she would speak. Now so much she's it's a minstrel show. That's the way I feel about
pretty
her.
Much how we feel about it on our side. You don't get really that many people admitting the faults of their own party, though.
It's difficult because you're supposed to have an allegiance, and some people go, "Oh, well, Ty, you're not really Republican. Maybe you're libertarian," but you can't tell me who I am. The Republic of the United States is important to me, and the ideals that it was built on, and we've strayed so far from that, that I think that anybody that believes in the ideals of the United States and you're a true proud American is a Republican in heart, because you believe that everything should be for the people no matter what you look like or what you believe in.
You can believe that, but I'm not anything anymore.
I believe that too. No, but that makes sense to me too. And if I didn't have to choose, and do I really have to choose is the question, but it's hard to believe any of it. It's hard to be a part of any of it anymore, and when Trump won, I was like heavy into politics. And then when Trump won, I was like, okay, I get it, but I couldn't really honor the circus that went along with it. And I'd step back from politics because it was just kind of like, all right, they're going to run this circus for about 4 years and then I'll come back to it.
To be quite honest, the next day, I went to sleep before Trump won. I remember it like it was yesterday. I'm dry. I would have to wake up like 5 o'clock in the morning to be at a place at 6 o'clock in the morning to train people. I'm listening to the radio. They're saying, "Oh, Trump won." I was pretty close to crying.
Yeah, it was devastating.
Pretty close to crying
for a lot of people.
Because I felt like at that time, the stuff that he was spewing, the things that he was saying, the history of him and his family, did not speak up for me. Nothing that he stood for stood up for me, and that made me feel like my whole country was not for me at that time. And you're talking like it goes on the other side. You have these gun-toting I don't know what to call them. I don't want to say gun-toting, but there's people that aren't from such a diverse area who feel like the same thing with them.
It's across the board, and with Trump being elected, those group of people needed that voice, needed Trump, and Trump needed to reel them in. That's how I feel like how Obama was put in office for Black people. I feel like Trump was put in office for those types of people. That's the way I look at it. And so to realize it's a chess game, and to realize that this is a true game being played, it's not a shocker. But I know that, like you said, for people when Trump got elected, it was complete devastation and people were crying or whatever else, because it seemed as though this country took 9 million steps back. And that's scary. But does that mean that did our country really evolve that much? I mean, from Obama to Trump, did it really? I mean, just because we had a black president, how many things really changed? And so now, because people are the dirty laundry that we always know existed, the racism is on a public platform now. Now we're upset. Yeah. But I feel like that needed to happen in order for us to make a definite and true change. It allowed people of all backgrounds to come together and say, okay, this man we clearly do not want. We know that we have these racism problems in our country or whatever else, but at the same time, maybe this is a time for us to all come together. So the fact that he was elected, actually, I feel like brought more Americans together than they actually say. And I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, we're gonna have to wait a couple more years. Probably after the next election.
Biden is.
Let me tell you about Biden.
I can't. This man, we got Reagan 2.0 over here with Biden.
This is the thing about him, man, and it's me. Fucking boring, yo.
It's not.
I like, and the only thing I liked about Trump is that I could come home.
You'd be entertained.
Entertained, like
but why do you have to be entertained by your president? That's the problem.
It was a soap opera.
Yeah,
I loved it.
But that's a problem.
He was an entertainer.
Yeah, but that's the problem.
I guess so, but
that's the problem.
I miss it. Why can't we have a liberal?
Yeah, but Biden is Reagan. When Reagan started to go downhill and had Alzheimer's and whatever else. Yeah. Biden, says stuff. What was it last week? The way he was talking, it's like he just says what he wants, and they clean it up later. And then he's not fully present. He's not present.
I don't think you're getting any Democrats to go against that. I think a lot of people are feeling that way. I'm just bored, really.
Nothing's really being done. It's for me, it's like business as usual in the United States government. The fact that I always say that the presidency really doesn't have any true power. I say because we're an oligarchy. The United States is an oligarchy. That means the few people that have the most money have the most power. Yeah. And the president is a puppet. Remember the movie Boomerang?
With James?
No, with Eddie Murphy, he slept with Eartha Kitt because they were getting this big account and she was the face. And then Robin Givens came in and was like, she has no power. You slept with her for no reason. Right. It's the same thing. She's just the face. I just feel like Biden is the face of the United States, but is he really doing anything
Don't talk
behind
about our president like that?
But is he doing it? Is this man that we call Biden, is he really calling the shots? No, that man is not calling the shots. He's a puppet.
That's good.
He's not calling the shots. That man is. See, we have it reversed here. We got a white man serving us here. I don't understand what's going on. What did I walk into?
I'm drinking it just so that happens.
And he's over there like, Jordan. Sorry, Jordan. I'm sorry.
Please, pour my wine.
Like, Jesus. What's going on?
So, I appreciate everything that you do, Jordan.
I'm sorry, Jordan. I'm just kidding.
Real quick.
I'm sorry.
You have taken a liking to boxing.
I love boxing.
Why?
I get to let out my aggression, but boxing is a thinking game, and it's a thinking game that I get to do with my body, and I get to judge another person's movements and figure out where they're going to throw the next punch, and so boxing is exciting to me. And so I don't know, and I've just kind of always been a fighter in that sense. I don't know why. Maybe somebody in my past, in my genes, was a boxer. I don't know, but I absolutely love it. I like getting sweaty. I like the combinations. I like remembering the combinations.
So it's really a chess match.
It really is. Yeah. I love it.
A lot of people think that when boxers go in there, they're just swinging. There's a lot to it, you know.
No, there is a lot to. You have to. Your stance. How you're gonna throw a punch. How to get the most power out of something. Out of a punch that you're gonna throw, and that to me is so exciting because you have to think on the fly.
Do you remember your first time going into a boxing gym?
Yeah, for the most part, I think. Let me think.
Oh no.
I have to think. It's been a long time. I've been in boxing for a while. I was away from it for a while. But yeah, I remember getting into a ring and putting on headgear, and they're like, okay, you're gonna hit this mitt. And they made me put on headgear, and I was like, this is stupid. Because if somebody hits me, I'm really fighting. Like, I'm gonna forget that I'm.
My Second Amendment's coming out.
Yeah, I'm gonna be in the parking lot waiting for you, or I will be up in here talking about why did you just hit me. No, but it's a place that I just find joy. It's my happy place.
Good.
Yeah. Is that weird?
No.
Because I don't seem like a boxer type.
I think that boxing is a lot of people's happy place.
Mm-hmm.
One of my biggest joys are seeing people that shouldn't be doing boxing get good at boxing.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't like. A lot of trainers want to train the person that makes them look good.
Mm-hmm.
I like to train the people that know nothing,
Mm-hmm.
that are cafeteria ladies,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden seeing them put together a combination,
Mm-hmm.
just like a professional fighter.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I get my joy at. So it's not weird for you to feel that way. It happens every day.
Yeah. I think it's awesome. So it's a surprise for you.
For what?
For you, like what you said, like when it's the cafeteria lady.
Yeah, it's not really a surprise as much as, because I already know that everybody can do it. I can do it. You can do it. Jordan can do it. It's the people that were scared to come in.
Yeah.
Those kind of people.
Mm-hmm.
The people that come in and say, "Oh, I just want to do this for exercise. I never want to spar again," and then they end up beating people up. That is what keeps me going.
Yeah.
People finding this new strength, this new power in boxing.
Yeah, it is a place to find your power. And so I thank you for opening the gym.
Yeah.
It's a great place. I always feel comfortable, and then learning things. I need to get into private lessons though, because I need to learn some stuff.
Figure it out. I don't know. Jordan might have to train you. I'm getting kind of booked.
Jordan might have to train me.
Look, this is crazy because I don't know. We've been here for almost 2 hours.
Have we?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We're gonna close this episode out. The way that I close this show out is I give the person that's on the show.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I give the person that's on the show. That's what happens when you drink the box wine. That shit it makes you stare off.
I'm like, wait, I saw a text message from somebody. I was like, wait, you're asking me about a check for what? Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You might want to read that. It's about money.
Oh my God, it was a check for what? I don't get it. Go ahead.
I give people a chance to spread their message to the world. Whatever they want to tell, whether it be your community, a community that needs to hear something from you that might not be necessarily your community. This is your chance to spread any message you want to the world.
So my message is that every person that is sitting next to you, every person that you see walking the grocery store or at the Wawa or whatever, that's a human being. And the same things that you go through, happiness, grief, anything that you go through as a human being, they're also going through too. And to recognize the humanness in them, no matter how different they may be, no matter the way that they may live their life, know at the end of the day that that's another human being, and to recognize their humanity. So yeah, just to recognize a person's humanity.
That's it.
Yeah.
Great message.
Thank you.
Guys, one of our best episodes. It was great speaking with Ty Fellenberg.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to call her Tanika from now on.
It's Ty Nika.
Ty Nika.
Yes. Thank
That's
you.
the Young Black Suburban.
Thank you.